Ani Bushu, Lindsay Disnakas, Jiba Naning and Dunjiba, Anishinaabe Kwe. Hello everyone, my name is Lindsay Kosh and I'm originally from the Jiba Naning and Dunjiba or Jiba Naning Anishinaabe territory, and I reside in Sudbury, Ontario, and I'm very happy to be here with you all and to take you through some of our teachings that were shared with us in regards to the grandfather teachings, 7 grandfather teachings in caring for your feet. These teachings were shared with us in 2008, shortly after the program started with its pilot projects. And we've carried these teachings with us throughout our services and programming that we deliver, and continue to share them with the community. So I'm excited to share them with you today. So just a little backgrounder about IDHC. Our vision is strengthening Indigenous community capacity to reduce the impact of diabetes. Our mission is to achieve this vision by supporting Indigenous communities, families, and individuals. And we do this by promoting holistic wellness models, building on traditional teachings and best practices to develop and provide programs, education, resources, and building relationships and community capacity. And in all this, IDHC recognizes and respects personal choice, autonomy, and diversity. Okay, so our foot care program, as some of you may know, is a holistic foot care program model that we carry, and this model supports a continuum of seamless foot care services, which are based on the knowledge sharing, the foot screening, access to care and care options, access to treatment support, and data collection. So our focus in the program is to provide these services to Indigenous people that are affected by or at risk of developing diabetes and its complications. And so we assist individuals and communities through our educational outreach and events. We assist through our self-care resources that I'll talk a little bit about later on, our ongoing preventative foot care clinics, as well as our subsidy for that individualized treatment for footwear and for foot devices. So we work together with many different programs and communities to strengthen the local community collaboration. So just reviewing some of the learning goals for today, we want to understand how the medicine wheel teachings relate to diabetes and self-care. We want to be able to identify key areas of the teachings for healthy foot care and footwear, and knowing our own circle of care and how to expand it. So just a little review of diabetes in your feet. As we all know, diabetes, type 2 diabetes specifically, it has to do with your body's ability to create insulin, and the insulin is created through the organ called your pancreas. And this pancreas either is not producing enough insulin, or your body's not able to use it in the right way in order to allow the sugar to leave your blood and enter into the cells. And as we know, our cells have doors, and as doors have locks, it's the insulin that unlocks the door to open it up for the glucose to come in. So there's either not enough insulin, the pancreas isn't making enough, or there's something going on where it's preventing it from being worked properly in the system. And in light of that, the sugar cannot enter the cell, and it's left in our red blood cell, on our red blood cell, that travels through our blood, going to all the important parts of our body, right down to our extremities, which is our fingertips, our eyes, which is the very small blood capillaries, and our toes, which is the longest furthest part away from our heart. So this is where it starts connecting to our feet, which is those high glucose levels, those high sugar levels that travel down to our feet, starts damaging the feet. So, and this damage goes towards our tissue, it goes towards our nerves that control our movement, feeling, and function. And it also causes damage to even the bone structure as well. So over time, this damage, which is called neuropathy, is that loss of protective sensation. So the nerves that are damaged and start to die off, what happens is you start to lose that protective feeling, because that's part of the function of the nerves, is to allow you to feel that sensory part of the body, that feeling of the toes. And you start losing that when the nerves become damaged and die off. And then you also could be affected by what they call peripheral arterial disease, which is also known as PAD. And this disease is more or less that hardening of the arteries. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. And please let me know if you have any questions regarding that, because the hardening of the arteries, it's like plaque buildup on your arteries, and it constricts the blood flow through your system. And also with that, it prevents the right amount of blood to get through in a timely manner. So then you start experiencing, slower blood movement. Nutrients aren't getting down there when they're supposed to. Certain things start slowing down, and it puts you at risk for further foot complications, as well as any other complications that are associated with peripheral arterial disease. So this is where we want to make sure that we're learning as much as we can about how to have healthy blood flow, and to have healthy food on our plate, because that all affects our feet and our toes when it comes to that loss of protective sensation with the nerve damage. So with our 7 grandfather teachings, they were shared with us from an elder who drew connections from those 7 grandfather teachings in the medicine wheel with diabetes, and the connections that came from knowing the mental aspect, the spiritual, the emotional, the physical aspects of the being when it comes to living with diabetes, or even being at risk of diabetes, and what sort of impacts it has, as well as what are some perspectives and teachings that we can draw upon to walk well with diabetes. And they also shared teachings in regards to what does all those 7 grandfather teachings share with us in regards to diabetes, and specifically our feet. So again, it's adapted for that diabetes healing and wellness, to have that in mind. And it's a great way to learn about ways to not only cope with recently being diagnosed, as well as learning a little bit more of different ways to look at type 2 diabetes and your own self-care when it comes to your wellness and your feet, and possibly some tools that you can take away and start practicing when it comes to your daily routine, and some of the ways of eating that you may be having within your home. So, and at the end of the day, it also provides these teachings and reflections that we are all in charge of our own journey, and we're all responsible for our own health, even though we may experience challenges, and sometimes we cannot prevent those challenges, but yet this is a tool that we can take so that we can build onto this in ways of giving ourselves a little bit more skills and ways of looking at our wellness when we're making our choices throughout the day and throughout our lives. So just sort of going through it one by one, we'll start with the north. And as we know, the north is that mental aspect. And I do understand and recognize that some of the placements within this medicine wheel may not be within the placements that you have come to know the medicine wheel, but we wanted to honor the teachings of this elder. And so this is where we start, is in the north, and it is associated with the mental aspect. So how does our mind cope with learning that we are living with diabetes? or even at a higher risk for developing diabetes. And a lot of times our mind might be racing with certain thoughts and certain perspectives on certain things. So we at times can move through thoughts of fear, shock, denial. And the fear acronym is also used for the terms that you may have heard before. False evidence appears real. So again, that's where that fear acronym, where you start thinking about certain things and your mind kind of starts racing. However, those thoughts might be based off of certain things that you've seen and images and certain things that you might have heard on the radio, or just certain bits of information that are in your mind, that you start connecting over to right away once you start learning about this, that end up possibly weighing more on your mind and stressing you out, because again, we see those things, yet learning more about the full facts are what's going to kind of squash some of those fears that we may have. Another big thing is denial. A lot of times there's different stages of denial, as similar to the stages of grief. And oftentimes you might have heard the sentiment of like an ostrich sticking their head in the sand. And, we are creatures of habit, and we have built certain habits into our lives. However, some of those habits may not be as good for us as what other habits could be. And by being the ostrich and sticking our head in the sand, we think that, whatever has come our way may just continue to pass. But with type 2 diabetes, it doesn't necessarily pass with us not recognizing it, or not learning about it, or not changing our ways to it. So by looking at some of these things that are impacting us by diabetes, then we now can turn to what can we do to strengthen this mental component? What can we do to strengthen our mental being of our body, in order to walk well with diabetes? So we move to develop the strength through receiving certain types of energy, by taking in more information, and to process how we think about ourselves within the context of diabetes and what healthy sugar levels are. So by learning more about it, by reading more about it, by talking to others who are living with it, and also a lot of our allied health professionals, and asking questions, we can then begin to strengthen and build up our mental toolbox of what we know about type 2 diabetes, how it reacts to certain things that we do, and how we can walk well with diabetes. So we learn to eliminate the fear through knowledge and through facts, and that is all related to the diabetes management. So it's that process, and it's the exchange of energy to allow the elimination of some of those maybe more stressful, negative things that come into our mind, by building up our own wisdom in regards to diabetes and learning more about it. And you can never learn enough when it comes to different ways of eating, and talking with others about ways that we can eat, and things that we can do to help have our bodies in the best shape that they can be, for our age, or wherever our situation may be. So this is sort of a way of exchanging that energy into building it up within that mental aspect of our being. So then we move on to the eastern side, and this eastern door is associated with the spiritual component of the medicine wheel, and that is in regards to how does our spirit cope with learning that we're living with diabetes, or that we're at higher risk of developing diabetes. how's our spirit affected by these sort of things? And we move through the sensations of being feeling like we're off track, possibly feelings of that hopelessness, not having any bearings on one's spirit in connection to diabetes. We may feel maybe that we're not grounded in a certain way, that we're kind of floating or almost being like a bobber in the water. Where you need that sort of connection, that grounding to strengthen the spiritual connection that you have for that hope and that faith of what is to come, and to have that assurance. So again, that sort of energy transition of processing it on a spiritual level, and looking at ways that you can bring back uh, these rituals or practices that help to strengthen that spiritual connection. A lot of times we look at what can we do to strengthen our spiritual connection, and it could be something as simple as the daily gratitude, just having that practice of laying our tobacco down for the creator, and giving thanks for everything that we do have. And it could be anything transitioning from that over to when it's safe to do so, doing our ceremonies, doing our fast, because even if you're living with type 2 diabetes, there are safe ways to go out and to do fasts to a certain degree. So we don't want to say that you can't. It's just you need to do it in a safe way with with someone who is experienced in that area. So we move towards sensations of learning and understanding the truth of diabetes, and gaining more support with ourself through that spiritual development, and with others, any of those elders, healers, ceremonial leaders, and our allied health professionals, and finding hope and that resolution, and how we ground our spirit with the reality that we face. So it's more of that determining of the energy. So again, the way of looking at it, the perspective that we have on it, and determining what that energy is, and how we are going to create the type of energy that we want to have, and strengthen that by looking towards our spiritual practices in times of this type of stress that might be in our lives. So, and then we have that enlightenment through that spiritual development, and that is what brings that grounding, and it grounds us even further into our spiritual connection. So when we're looking at the medicine wheel, and we're looking at the southern door and the southern direction, we have the emotional aspect of our being. And again, oftentimes you might hear people remark that diabetes might be like an emotional roller coaster, and that is all also connected to our physical body as well. When we have our ups and downs within our sugar levels, it affects our emotions, it affects our mood. So it affects all areas of the body, but specifically with our emotions, that does get impacted with our actual sugar levels. So there's that element at play, as well as just in general how we feel about the situation, how we feel even about if a loved one is diagnosed with diabetes, and how we are affected by that emotionally, and how our heart feels about the situation. So it's how we cope on that level in learning with learning about it, and or that we might be at risk of it, or even pre-diabetic. So we move through certain feelings, and those certain feelings could be sadness, anger, or being mad, feeling that frustration around you, also feeling exhausted, emotionally exhausted, where a lot of times, it's not necessarily your mind or your body, but you're just emotionally drained out, where you don't have anything left to have feelings towards anything else that's going on in your life. and also feeling of being drained too. So those are some real feelings that happen around us, and knowing it and identifying it, just helps us to allow that to happen, and to allow us to process that as, okay, this is something that is not necessarily to be expected, but it's something that I can identify with, and I know that I'm going to see it and process myself through it. So, and how you can process yourself through those emotions is by releasing those feelings, and possibly releasing it through our spiritual connection of laying our tobacco down, being able to talk to somebody like an elder or counsel, and start picking up other things that we can do, which is even journaling. I know it's an older practice, but it does help to get those feelings out, and other things that we can do for emotional support, by learning of how to identify feelings, where are they coming from, and allowing them to be, and processing through it. So certain things that we can also do is that fitness, and meal plan, because like I mentioned, that and medication has something to do with our feelings, with the sugar levels in our body, and then just grounding ourselves within the emotional self help of that, you're learning as much as you can, just keep coaching yourself of, it's a process, and you have to allow those feelings to be felt, in order to give that energy away, in the sense of allowing it to be processed and then released back. We never want to hold on to any one particular feeling, because this too shall also pass. Everything is always moving. So we allow those feelings to be identified, to be honored, because they are our own feelings, and then to process it through, and then allow it to be released back into the universe and back up to Creator. So that's a way of giving that energy back. And by allowing ourselves to take time to process that, it's that accepting support that allows that self to be open, to choose to try to help our own self, as well as have that sort of change of heart of looking at a way of, or changing our way of looking at things. I know I often turn to the sentiment of if you don't have the power to change something, you always have the power to change the way you look at it. So turning to those sort of things as to a way of, is there another way of looking at this? Is there another way of, trying to see how I feel about the situation, and bringing in that hope of, there are many ways to look at a situation, and it's, you'll always have that power. No one will ever take that away from you. So that's sort of a little bit of the teachings in regards to the emotional side of the medicine wheel. So the Western is the physical aspect of our being, and that's the how our body copes with learning that we're living with diabetes, or those higher risk of developing diabetes. So we move through the body's functions with the imbalance, the diseasement, possibly fatigue, and oftentimes that physical exhaustion and drainage. Sometimes we have a routine, like I mentioned, and we kind of have it as like a concrete path throughout our day. It's an autopilot that you just move through. So kind of trying to shift away from that concrete path to basically, for lack of a better term, bushwhacking through the forest. It's a whole lot easier just to kind of follow that hardened path rather than to break new trail. So you'd be gentle with yourself, because it does take time to formulate new habits and to kind of continue to work at that. So easier said than done, but to just continue to have the dedication to restore that energy, and our ability of learning to work with our present body and accepting the present reality in order to adapt our ways of living. The things that you've always used to do, well, today is a new day, and today we can maybe learn to incorporate different things physically, is a way of looking at things. So making peace with, by taking diabetes by the hand and walking forward in life in a proactive, positive way. And that's the way that we can hold on to that energy that we have created and shaped ourselves. And we hold on to that with our own hand, and we walk with that by choosing the way that we walk forward in the future, because the present day shapes our future. So by making certain choices now and walking in a different way now, that is you changing your future, in the sense of creating a new routine, creating a new way of living and a new way of eating. So it's that acceptance and that adaptation that allows us to just hold on to the energy that we have now created to continue in the future. So, looking at that and our nutrition and our physical activity and our new routines will allow our body to heal and to maintain that positive energy. So moving in towards our grandfather teachings, our 7 grandfather teachings in regards to self-care, and how that speaks a little bit more about our foot care. So looking at our truth, so knowing the truth about diabetes, that ties into what it is and what it isn't, what it can be and what it can't be. Knowing the complications, the ways that we can practice prevention through healthy ways of living. And that is both the physical activity and nutrition, because there's many depths that we can dive into in regards to our physical activity and our nutrition. So learning about foot concerns that affect one's feet and the abilities and what to look for. So, and I just wanted to point out there that foot concerns affect everybody. You don't have to be living with diabetes to have foot concerns. It's just that diabetes puts those at greater risk for injury and for greater risk for foot complications because of the blood health and because of that loss of protective sensation, because of the damage to the nerves that's being done by the high sugar levels. So that's just the connection there. But anybody can get foot concerns, that's for sure. So then we also look at how to give the best care to our feet by looking towards our self-inspections and also our daily hygiene. So that's the truth when it comes to our foot care, and knowing, the truth about it and what it is and what it isn't. So wisdom, so knowing the truth that foot care is good for everybody and foot concerns affect everybody. It's just that truth of our blood health and our sugar levels. We can then now start turning towards wisdom and turning towards knowing more about what we can do. What can we build into our foot care toolbox when it comes to taking care of our bodies, taking care of our feet? What do we need to learn? And what are some tips that we can take away? So we look at healthy ways of living, from literature, from health providers, nurse practitioners, doctors, dietitians, diabetes educators, frontline workers in the health field, learning as much as we can by sharing our knowledge, sharing what we've learned, and also asking questions is a great way to build up that wisdom. So also there are so many different kinds of foot concerns, but knowing what they are and why they happen will help you to navigate when you are looking at your own feet, because there are certain complications that can happen that can be treated and cleared. And then there are also some that cannot necessarily be cleared, but they can be cared for so that it doesn't worsen and it stays where it is right now. For example, some things that can be treated and cleared are warts, which are a viral infection that can, with treatment, be cleared. But other things that can be cared for is possible those fallen arches, where the arches in our feet begin to drop because of the bone integrity that we have with the structure we are losing that because of damage. So that's where we can care for that and accommodate that by utilizing orthotics. So, but I'm not going to get too much into that right now, because that will dive deeper in another webinar, which is foot care and self-inspections. So other areas of wisdom is, who are our foot care specialists? Where's our list of turn tos if we have any questions? And it's always great to have those people to connect with. And they can be, your chiropodist or podiatrist, your foot care nurses, podorthists that deal more with orthotics and footwear, or even vascular surgeons or physiotherapists, depending on where you are within your journey with foot care. All those health providers can help. And keep in mind that they've gone through years of schooling, they've read many books, they've gotten certain credentials under their belt. Why not ask questions? Why not pick their brain and see what they have to say about certain things? Because that's a way of learning from from those experts. So the ways of performing self-inspections and hygiene, and when to reach out for help. So those are also things that we want to learn about, and learning as much as we can in regards to how do we do it, what do we need, those sort of things. Honesty, being honest with yourself first off, because self-wellness is of the most importance, because it is in the center. You are in the center of this wellness wheel. So you want to be honest with yourself, and then in turn you can be honest with others. And that honesty is about really where you are within your wellness journey. And we are all at different stages. And it doesn't mean that we are, slower or faster or wrong or right. It's just where we are. And to be honest with that is accepting it and respecting it. So, and once that happens, there is that ownership of it, because we all travel at different paces, and that is perfectly fine. So being honest with providers when you notice that there's something different with your feet or with your health, because it's good to flag it early on, because chances are, if we do flag it early on, even if it's just a thought or that spirit talking to you, that that some people call it a gut feeling or the instinct, but it's that spirit whispering to you, and we want to make sure that we honor that too, and even just talk about it, to bring it to light, and to share that, and to be honest with it. To be honest with your foot concerns, as no concern is too small to talk about it with your loved ones or even with your diabetes team, because again, when you flag it early on, you tend to be able to clear it, and it's easier to clear depending on what it is, and bringing it to a service provider's attention. They'll be able to get on it right away and tackle it before it gets to be a bigger, more complicated concern. Bravery and honesty, I think, go hand in hand. Because it takes bravery to be honest with yourself and with others, and bravery is oftentimes it needs to kind of be built, and it does take small steps, but gradually, the more bravery that you practice, the more bravery that you will have. So it's that bravery of taking your shoes and socks off for yourself, and to know how your feet are doing, and as well as to show your feet to loved ones and to your diabetes team, including your foot care provider, with the, trust that they have your best intentions in mind, and that they're there to care for you and your feet, and that they're there to help you stay well, and that your feet are, their main priority when it comes to care, and that if you do take your shoes and socks off and you get a different reaction than what is anything but respectful, then you have the right to move on to a different provider, or to go somewhere else. But don't let that change your priority of caring for your feet. So no matter what the concern is, acting quickly will make and making those calls for follow-up care will help to keep your feet for your lifetime. And when you're finding yourself in a new and unfamiliar space, or places, in order to find your voice too, and to speak up for your health and for your foot care, no matter what, it is our right to protect ourselves, because that self wellness is most important. And sometimes we can forget that, but we also need to practice that care for ourselves, and to care for our spirit, to protect it, and to protect all those different areas of our being, by using our voice and speaking up. And again, if you do have the opportunity to if you're seeing someone new, or a provider that's new for the first time, to walk with a friend or a loved one, because it strengthens that advocacy, and that voice for your care, you know. And I also say that, it allows, more ears to listen to what they're having to say, and then more mouths to be speaking up for your own healthcare too. So humility, to be humble. This is oftentimes something that um, may be of a challenge, because we feel that we should be in different places or spaces, or that we should be in a different point of time within our journey. But that's not what it is, and we're no better or worse than others. We are all part of the sacred connection to Gitchimanito, and we're all equal within that sacred connection. So that's to be humble, and regarding where we are with learning about diabetes, to learning about the prevention and that foot care, and knowing that there's always more to learn. So sharing that knowledge, but knowing that you want to be open to receive it as well, and knowing that there are so many things that we can learn about it, and we can continue to learn about it. So when you know that there is a concern that needs both yours and your foot care team's attention, you want to make sure that you're practicing that humility by opening that doorway, and allowing the exchange of information to flow. And also for finding the right fitting footwear. This is a little bit more surfaceable, but you want to find it that's a good accommodative footwear, not anything that's fashionable or that looks good. It's got to be good, and sometimes that doesn't go hand in hand when you're shoe shopping. Also, to be humble with that, we do not all have the same shape of feet, and choosing comfort and proper structure over style and looks will ultimately be the better choice, because it protects our feet. So respect, practicing that respect to our own body, to our own mind and spirit and emotions, and to protect and provide as much nourishment as possible to those areas on a daily basis, and to practice respect towards our feet, and knowing how important they are, and to not take them for granted, that's what gets you through the day. That's what gets you up out of bed and walking through your day. To respect your providers who are there to help you, and to walk in a good way, and to give information, so that you can choose those different healthy ways to move forward with. And also to practice the respect and giving your feet as much attention as you can give, and to give them a look over every day, and to protect them with good fitting footwear for the environment and the activity. So knowing what your day is going to consist of, and choosing the footwear that works well with those different activities, or the different seasons that we may be in, those sort of things to all have the consideration. Because by respecting our feet, we protect them, because you're looking out for that part of your body, and also respecting all the different areas of our being, by making sure that they are protected. Our mind, our emotion, spirit, and our physical body is also protected from harm in any shape or capacity. Love. So that sort of leads right into love. When you have that respect, it's with love. So you practice that love with yourself every day, and you promise to just to try your best. And that's all we can do, is just to continue to get up. Oftentimes it's not really how many times you get kind of that you fall or that you falter. It's just how many times can you kind of pick yourself back up and brush the dirt off and just continue to try your best, because it's out of love for yourself. It's out of love for your own spirit, your own mind and body. Um, and to love your feet too, to show them that appreciation for what they've enabled you to do and for where they've enabled you to go. And that love comes with that daily care for yourself and for your feet, so that that love can continue to circulate throughout your whole being. And with those who love you too, and by trying to, they're just trying to help you. It may seem nagging at times, but they're just doing it because they love you so much that they want you to be well looked after, and for you to look after all those different areas of your body and your feet. So it does come from a place of love, even though it may not seem so at the time. So I just want to quickly talk a little bit about the preventative foot care side of things. So now that we've sort of gone through the four different components of the medicine wheel and the 7 grandfather teachings, so what are some things that we can kind of take away today in order to have that preventative foot care? So we're seeing some really healthy foods in that food basket. We're seeing some insoles, we're seeing some physical activity, and we're also seeing that sort of virtual care, connecting with our care providers. So one of the things is to try our best to keep our sugar levels below that sort of 10 mark when you're looking at your glucometer reading, the 10 millimole that you're looking at when you're doing your sugar testings. Looking at the proper fitting footwear, also proper fitting socks, as well as garments if you need to wear those as well, so that they are the right fit all around, both length, width, and aroundness if you're wearing garments, and the socks as well, because that plays a huge role in finding the right fit for your unique foot shape. Protecting feet from the environmental trauma, from an injury or even possible infection to start. So again, environmental trauma could be anything from the season to what's around, both in your house and outside your house. Possible injury from certain activities that you do. It could be inside your body that could be injured, that neuropathy, the injury to our different parts of our feet, the structural part, the bones, the nerves, or even the skin. And also any type of infection that might start, such as like a foot fungus or a nail fungus that could start just from not having your feet well cleaned, moisturized, but yet kept dry, can lead to those sort of things. Practicing movement for blood flow, practicing that strength building and maintaining, as well as practicing that flexibility. And that just comes from different physical practices that we can look to incorporate into our daily routine, and different things that we can do with movement. Looking at daily foot inspections and hygiene practices, so making sure that's a daily thing when you're inspecting your feet. And also just consulting with those diabetes health teams and the available health provider, as well as turning to the Ontario telehealth network. So daily foot inspections, when we talk about our daily self-care and foot inspections, so what does that mean? And what do we need? So one of the key things that you would need is a large mirror, because that will help to take a look at the bottoms of your feet. That's where they get the most wear and tear. A first aid kit, just in case you do identify any splits or breakage of the skin or cracks. That's something that you want to clean right away, put on a polysporin to prevent any bacteria from starting that could lead to an infection, and cover it right away too, to protect that open area of the skin. You also want a checklist, because sometimes, it's great to have like a list of things, so that you know what you should be looking for, and you can be checking it off as you go, and the marker and the pen to allow that to happen, as well as a washcloth and a towel to clean your feet off, to know that you're getting a good clean look at your feet, to know what's really going on, and then to dry it, because it's very important to have that dry feet, as moisture does hinder our skin's integrity. especially between the toes too. And that's where foot fungus can start, in those dark, moist environments. So using a towel to go between the toes and to clean off or dry off any wet areas. So some things to consider before the inspection is making sure that wherever you're doing it, you have good lighting. So you can see the whole area of the foot. You want to be in a comfortable place so that you can, move around and check your feet out. You want to make sure that you're including the 3 of the 5 senses, which is the smell, the touch, as well as the look. And the touch is just looking for heatness. If there's one foot that's hotter than the other, or one spot that's hotter than the other, or colder than the other, that could be a sign of change that you want to flag with your provider or your health team. And you're looking for if LOPS is present, which is that loss of protective sensation, that inability to feel that sensation when something's applied to the feet, then you want to be checking twice a day, because things can happen throughout the day that you may not feel, that you'll want to catch right away to be able to clear and to treat it right away. So again, when we say that we want to use a mirror, that mirror can be placed along the wall and bring your chair up towards it so that you can see the bottoms of your feet if it's too hard to hold with your hand and use. And then that's when you can talk to your healthcare professional immediately if you do see redness, or if you see built up callous skin, or open sores or wounds or ingrown toenails, or any differences or changes when it comes to your feet. The most important thing is, if you're noticing change, that's when you want to be flagging it with someone. Washing your feet every day too. It's very important to be able to wash away any of that dead skin that's lingering on our feet, to clean out from the sweat that might be there, dirt that might be there, and then also to use some of those tools to help clear away any of that dead skin, and then to dry the area and to moisturize as well. Oftentimes within 3 minutes, your skin absorbs the most amount of moisture. So it's a good idea to do it right away as soon as you dried off your feet, to apply that cream so that your skin can absorb as much as it can. And checking the toenails too. You want to make sure that they are smooth. If you are able to trim them and you don't have vision concerns or loss of protective sensation, then you can trim them right across. But you have to be very careful about that, because there's a lot of concerns that happen with nails. And if they are cut too short, you could have ingrown toenails or split skin and lead to an infection. And also, if they are left jagged or ragged, then they could catch on a sock and it could end up ripping your nails. So making sure that you give a good check to your nails as well. So the foot care program of IDHC provides some of those items that I talked about, and they also provide a little bit more. What I talked about in the past were just your core things that you really should have. And then the other ones are just sort of extra stuff that it's a great tool to have, to use to kind of build into your toolkit. So some of the resources that we have in our foot care program is information. So we have our pamphlet series that talk about diabetes. It talks about foot care. It gives you that much more information to build that wisdom up, in learning how to take care of your feet. It also has that mirror included. It's got that first aid kit. It has the soap to wash, the cream to apply after you've dried. It has that foot file to take care of any of that built up callus while you're washing, particularly on the heels and possibly on the balls of our feet, because that's where we get a lot of callus as well. And a footsie brush, which is just basically a long handled toothbrush, but that helps to kind of clean out underneath the nails and around it too, to kind of get into those areas that might have lint buildup or dirt or whatever that might be in there. So it's just a next little tool that you could use. An emery board, that is great to have, or a nail file to smooth out those rough edges of the nails. Diabetes socks that are a great way to practice that good preventative care, because a diabetes sock will not have the constriction at the top with that elastic band, and it won't have the top seam that runs across the toes, because that can not only the top sock elastic will constrict the blood flow, but that top seam running across the toes, that could cause the breakage of the skin And then all of a sudden now you've got an open area that you need to take care of. So, and white is also great to have because it will tell you if there was a concern throughout the day by looking at whether there's any signs of blood or discharge. Healing stone, that helps to ground us, helps to remind us of our 7 grandfather teachings. Reminder magnet that we can place on the fridge to remind ourselves to, make healthy choices and try to look at our feet every day, twice a day. And then just looking at the pen, we have a healthy feet checklist. It's laminated with a dry erase, so that's helpful. You can use it again and again. And everything with a video or a USB stick that you can watch, and everything in a lovely little tote bag. So those are some of the resources that our own foot care program provide to different programs, organizations that run services that we can link up with, so that that can then be disseminated out towards community members. So just a reminder to wear socks in the shoes and in the slippers, no bare feet, because that helps to prevent the injuries. So you want to have those socks and shoes. And if the toes do have the seam running across the top, just turn them inside out. And if they do have the tight cuffs, you can just cut the elastic. I know the sock might slide down, but it's better than constricting the blood flow. So checking footwear before putting it on, because sometimes things might fall in there. So you want to dump it all out. Make sure that you've got nothing in there that's going to harm the feet. And then go for a walk, even if it's just a short one around the block. It's good because that movement helps the blood flow. And last but not least, get the annual foot exams. You always want to check in and get those exams when it comes to your feet to know how you're doing, with your feeling, to know how you're doing with the blood flow. When you're looking at your footwear, not all feet are the same. So looking at the length and the width when you're looking at your feet, and also the cushioning, the depth, the material, all those things factor into a good supportive shoe. And as mentioned, choosing it right for the season and for the activity, because you want to practice that prevention. So looking at the spring that needs the moisture barrier, summer needs breathability, fall needs that insulation and moisture barrier, and winter needs greater insulation and a deeper tread for the snow, and also that moisture barrier too. So if you do have those older shoes, you want to be taking them out, looking for signs of aging and knowing when to replace them. So looking for any breakdown of material, minimal to no tread, as well as looking inside for the threading or the material coming apart, and putting them on that surface to see if they're still balanced. So they're going to provide that balance for you. So, and if you do have to purchase shoes, just go later in the afternoon, because our feet naturally swell throughout the day. So we want to get shoes that can accommodate that swelling. As mentioned earlier on, your supports are all around you. They may not be physically there, but they can be there virtually as well. So it's your family, your friends, your personal support workers, your doctors, pharmacists, your local health center, your ongoing clinic host. IDHC foot care program is your support as well. Chiropodists in your area who may come into your area. So all those are your supports that you can turn to and ask questions to. And these are the staff members within our organization that you can turn to as well. And this is just a little quote that helps to wrap up a lot of our teachings today, is that we all have the tools that we need to have that good life and to stay in balance and harmony. It's up to us as a people to look after ourselves in a good way. It's our responsibility to take back that good life and to make it your own. An IDHC foot care program is here to assist in any way, shape, or form to help build the skills and build the tools in your toolbox, so that we can all walk together and stay well within our journey and take care of our feet.